in the annals of American history. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com in review. And what I'm looking at today is 2006's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, directed by Jonathan Liebesman, who's done things like Wrath of the Titans, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Darkness Falls. And I'm assuming this man came from video directing because he has a great sense of flow. Things move really well in his movies. Stories tend not to be quite as important, but for a director that emphasizes the visual, that's understood. That's not to say it always works, but at least I get it. And with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, that's what you get. It's visually a gorgeous movie, very much sepia toned, and it's really shot in a very interesting manner. But the thing is, I get the feeling that it looks the way it does to compensate for the weakness of the story, which is just so weak. If you recall my last review of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, I said to the effect that it overemphasized story. Texas Chainsaw The Beginning doesn't underemphasize story, it kind of just pays lip service to story, which is to say, it has an outline, but there's no real depth to it. The story revolves around these two men, one of them played by Matt Bomer, whose brother is going to Vietnam, and they're just going on a road trip before that happens. He's been to Vietnam before, and he's going back because his brother has been drafted. Now, I get the feeling Matt Bomer was cast because he's a really attractive dude, because his acting is not so great, which is to say, I've never been to any kind of conflict, like a war, but the way Bomer acts in this role seems very silly, and it doesn't really get across the horror that is war, or I should say the horror that I imagine war to be, based on what I've seen of wars, including the one that's going on in Ukraine right now. It sounds like a really terrible time, and Bomer's character seems almost nonchalant about it. Now keep in mind, everyone's experience is individual, and maybe that's what he got from his experience in Vietnam. But it's so contrary to virtually everyone else's experience in Vietnam. For movies like Platoon and the Francis Ford Coppola movie, it's eluding me at the moment. Though it's just the idea that these conflicts are so game-changing and are so devastating in the way they affect the people who actively participated in them. To have Matt Bomer's character not only have been to Vietnam, but decide to go back and seem very, once again, nonchalant about it, almost comes off as insulting. Though in any case, as I said, they decided to go on a trip across Texas. This is happening, I think, in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And they encounter Leatherface and his family. And this is where I got the impression that the family was involved from my last review, because the family is all in. And in fact, the father, played by the great E. Lee Ermey, takes on the persona of the sheriff of the town, which is dying because the main source of employment, which is a slaughterhouse, is closing. I think someone was poisoned by their meat or something. The standards are really bad, and it's closed down, killing the town. Though this is where Leatherface worked. And earlier in the film, we get to witness his birth, which is kind of dumb. Doesn't really make any sense, and doesn't really explain why he's doing what he's doing. And there's a scene where he just happens to see a chainsaw and grabs it. That's a bit kind of weak in terms of an iconic character like Leatherface, in that suppose he had seen, I don't know, a fruit peeler or a bunch of toothpicks. Would those have been his iconic weapons? Now, obviously, a chainsaw is not a bunch of toothpicks or a fruit peeler, but it's just the idea that it was just happenstance. If it were a butcher knife, he would have used a butcher knife, except that it's too common a weapon, so they couldn't have gone with that. And in earlier movies, it was a chainsaw, so they had to make a chainsaw his weapon. Though, as I said, how it came about was ultimately very unsatisfying. So Matt Bomer and his brother are going through Texas, and after an attempt of a robbery by this woman in a motorcycle gang, they encounter Ely Ermey's sheriff, or I should say sheriff, and he takes them to the house where Leatherface lives. And this family is a cannibal family, which is to say they survive on eating people. Why this is never quite explained. It just happens to be the case. And seemingly the slaughterhouse that was closed down was a means of supplying them with people? It's strongly implied to be the case, but the movie doesn't illustrate how that's the case at all, because I would imagine if enough people died touring through that town, it would bring investigators to that town. That never happened, and the movie kind of glosses over that fact, which is kind of a bummer, because this movie, as I said earlier, is visually speaking very gorgeous to look at. It looks like a Nirvana video. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Liebsman directed Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit video. In any case, things go on, people get killed. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. And as I said, it's gorgeous to look at. But to say that it's working with a story is being kind. It's working with an outline of a story. So you have that problem. I mentioned Matt Bomer's character earlier, who is just badly cast. And I forgot to mention that Lee Tergesen is also in this movie. And if you're not familiar with him, he's been in a lot of things, but I primarily remember him from the HBO series Oz. And he's just a magnificent actor. And him appearing in this movie tells me that people have bills to pay. He does well with the role for what it is. It's not a great role. It doesn't take up much time. He plays one of the motorcycle gang people, and his girlfriend was the one who tried to rob Matt Bomer and his brother earlier in the movie. Now, he was also part of a motorcycle gang. Where was that gang when things were going down with Leatherface and his family? You can't have them in a movie because they would have killed them, which wouldn't exactly work for the story. So of course, we make it so that those two gang members, Tergesen and his girlfriend, are pretty much independent of the others because movie. And I keep repeating, it's a gorgeous movie. It's well shot. It's less gory than suggestions of gore. You don't see a lot of it actually happening, but you see hints of things. And it's just so well shot. And it's such a visually interesting movie. Though it's just not a very good one. If you can see beyond the visual, you start looking to the story to deliver some pathos, it doesn't quite hold up. That being said, it is still watchable. This is the second Texas Chainsaw movie I've watched in as many weeks. And both of them are quite watchable. Both of them are interesting in their own particular ways. Both of them aren't very good, mainly in a story sense. One overcompensates, this one undercompensates. In any case, what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow.